Hi guys, and welcome to Exams Made Easy. This video today is the 2014 Correction of Errors and Suspense account, a 100-mark question in the papers, so worth 25% of your whole exam. Good knowledge of debits and credits is needed if you want to attempt this question, but if you do practice them and get the hang of them, it's possible to get 100 out of 100. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through the question start to finish. I'm going to show you the workings and then I'm going to show you the marking scheme to finish it off, to show you where the marks come from. So without further ado, we'll continue into the worked example. At any point, you can pause the video, you can rewind it, and you can check things out. With all accounting questions, it's all about practice. Practice, practice, practice. Don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. That's what I say to my students. So let's go ahead and start the question. Okay, as you can see here on the screen, I have the question up on the screen. And one thing we always look for at the beginning of a suspense account is what type of business are we dealing with. That's actually quite important. So here you will see we have E. Cagney, and E. Cagney is a grocer. Okay, so this will become evident further in the question, a grocer. What we are generally looking for is you'll see in a couple of the other years, if it was a garage, then that becomes important because anything to do with vehicles becomes purchases. But we are dealing with a grocer in this question. So anything that needs pointed out, I will show you later in the question. Okay, with all questions, this is a 100-mark question. So you're given a balance sheet. Be aware of where the suspense account lies. So in this case, it is the stock current asset, including suspense. So when we work out the suspense account, we will adjust this figure, the stock figure, okay? And you will base your balance sheet later on this, but we'll make a few adjustments. Then you will be given a list of errors. In this question, there are 5 errors. We're going to go through them one at a time. That's where most of your marks are coming from, fixing these errors. So you'll see down the bottom here, what are you actually asked? For 54 marks, you're asked to journalize the corrections. For 6 marks, show the suspense account. 14 marks, a corrected net profit. 20 marks, a corrected balance sheet. And for 6 marks, 3 types of errors. So that is a bit of theory. Don't ignore the theory, because that's worth 1.5% of your whole exam. Every 4 marks is worth 1%. Okay, that's the question. So how do we approach the question? This is how I approach the question. I'm going to go through each error one by one. Once I have the errors sorted, I can very easily journalize the corrections, do the suspense account, the profit and the balance sheet. The key to this question is fixing the errors. And this is the way I approach it. So note number 1, I'm going to go through each error in order and show you what I would do with them in class. So first of all, a debtor who owed Cagney €830 sent a cheque for €780 in full settlement, and this was recorded correctly in the books. So what I'm going to do, I have a did column, I have a should column, and I have a fix column. This is the way I lay it out. So what did happen in this question was correct. There was a debtor's account, there was a discount account, because you can see that the debt was $830 and a cheque was sent for $780, so there must have been discount, and a cheque would always come from the bank account, so there would be bank as well. So what happened was, and this is where you need quite a good knowledge, so debtors would have reduced by 830. You would have there would have been discount of €50, and the bank would have been debited by 780. That's what did happen, and everything was recorded correctly in the books. However, then there was an error made because no entry was made in the books of subsequent dishonouring of this cheque or the closing of the debtor's account after the receipt of a first and final payment of 10 cent in the euro. So there's a couple of things that we have to do in that sentence. First of all, what we have to do, so really this would be the fix column, okay? So there's no the should column, will just go straight to the fix column to fix this because it was left out altogether. The first column was done correctly and we're going to fix it. So what we need to do first of all, the subsequent dishonouring of the cheque. So these three things here, the debtors, the discount and the bank, they all have to be reversed. So debtors, discount and bank, they all have to be reversed. So 830 debit, 50 credit, so that would be discount allowed, disallowed, and bank would be 780 on the credit side. So that's the first part of the sentence, the subsequent dishonouring of the cheque. Secondly, closing of the debtor's account after the receipt of a first and final payment of 10 cent in the euro. So the debt was 830 euro. Closing of the debtor's account. So that means 830 credited to the debtor's account. The debtors now stands at 0. What else happened? A cheque was sent, or a first and final payment of 10 cent in the euro. So basically for every euro owed, 10 cent was given. So 10% of 830, 83 euro was debited to the bank account. And the final thing, we were owed 830, but we only got 83 euro into the bank. So there is a bad debt there. So bad debt written off of 747 euro. Okay, and that would fix what was missed out in the books. Now what I do also, I do a little note down the right hand side which helps me with my profit and loss and my balance sheet when I get to that stage, which I will show you. So what I would do here, we've a debtors on the debit side and we have a debtors on the credit side. So when it comes to the balance sheet, we're going to add to debtors and we're also going to take from debtors, and I'll show you that shortly. With the discount is a P&L item. This would be the rule. If a P&L item is debited in the fixed column, you would take it away. If it's credited, you will add it. So we are going to add to P and L, and I will show you what I mean by that later. The bank, okay, this is very important that you check first of all in your initial balance sheet, do you have a bank overdraft or do you have a bank current asset? So if I just flick back to the bank account, you will see here the bank is a current overdraft of 32,000. So negative 32,000. So when we credit a bank overdraft, we're going to add to the bank overdraft 780. So add 780 to overdraft. And we're going to take 83 from overdraft. Okay. Basically that 780 increases your overdraft, the 83 decreases your overdraft. Then the last thing here, the bad debt written off, that would be a P&L item and it's on the debit side, so you're going to take from P and L. Okay, so that's note 1 done. I'm going to go through the 5 notes and then I will show you where they go in the marking scheme after that. Note number 2. Cagney had returned goods previously purchased on credit for 15,800 from a supplier. Cagney entered this transaction as 18,500 on the correct sides of the correct accounts in the ledger. As you can see, it's the wrong figure though. A credit note subsequently arrived showing a restocking charge of €800. The only entry made in respect of this credit note was a credit of 15,000 in the creditors account. Okay, so a right mess here. First of all, what did happen? So what they have gone and done, the two accounts we are dealing with here are purchase returns and creditors. Okay, what they have gone and done is the wrong figure, but they've done it in the right account, the right side, but the wrong figure. So they've credited 18,500. They've debited creditors 18,500, and then we are told for the restocking charge, all they have done there is they've credited creditors 15,000. So that's a mess. What should have happened was far more straightforward. Again, we had purchase returns account and we had a creditors account. So what should have happened, the right figure was 15,800 and debit creditors 15,800. And what you do with the restocking charge of 800 is you debit purchase returns 800, you credit creditors 800. So that's what should have happened. So we need to fix this. Now, one thing to point out, in the did column, if the did column does not balance, so you add up the debit side, in this case 18,500, you add up the credit side, in this case it's around 33,500, it doesn't balance, so that will mean in the fixed column you must have a suspense account. The other two accounts we will have purchase returns and a creditors. Okay, now so this takes just a bit of mental arithmetic to make sure you have. So purchase returns is 18,500 on the credit side. Now, if we were to balance this account here, we have 18,500 on the debit side, we have 15,000 on the credit side, so this account would be sitting at 3,500 on the debit side. This account here, if we were to balance this, would be at 15,000 on this side, and this account would be at 15,000 on this side. This is what we want to achieve, and this is where we are. So how do we achieve that? First of all, purchase returns. Sitting at 18,500, we want it to be 15,000. Therefore, we are going to have to debit 3,500 to get it down to 15,000. The creditors account is sitting at 3,500 on the debit side. We want it to be 15,000 on the debit side. So we're going to have to debit 11,500. As you can see, we need to put in the suspense account to balance things here, 15,000. So both sides now, the debit side is 15,000, the credit side is 15,000. Purchase returns is P&L. It's on the debit side, so we take from P and L. Creditors. It's on the debit side of a creditors account, so we take from creditors. And the suspense account, when we get to do that, it will be on the credit side of the suspense account. Same side as it is there. That's note 2. Note number 3. A cheque for €4,260 was paid by Cagney out of a private account to cover 15 months hire of equipment for the business up to 31st of the 3rd, 2014. No entry had been made in the books. So in this case, because no entry had been made in the books, so you can see no entry made in the books, we don't have a did column and we don't have a fixed column. It's all about the should column. Okay, we only have a should column. So what happens? We actually need an extra account, so I'm just going to copy and paste here. Okay. So a private bank account, a cheque paid out of a private bank account, that is capital introduced to the business. So capital would be one account. and the capital introduced would be 4,260. Now what we have here is rent of hire of equipment for 15 months into 3 months into next year. So basically it's going to be 12 months this year, so 12/15ths this year, 3/15ths next year. So 12/15ths of 4,260, and that would give you 3,408, and 3/15ths of 4,260 would give you 852. So what we have for the P&L account, for rent for the year, rent of the equipment for this year, so rent would, and this would be P&L account, we would debit 3,408. Going into next year, the 3 months, which would also be called rent, but we call it prepaid, would be 852, and that would be in the balance sheet. So what we're going to do here, the 4,260, when we come to do our thing in the balance sheet, we're going to add to capital account. The rent, which is P&L, we're going to take from P and L because it's on the debit side, and the rent prepaid is a current asset, so we're going to create a new current asset. That's going to be a current asset in the balance sheet, so that will be new. If you see this note coming up, generally the rent prepaid wouldn't show. So if I just go back to the question, there is no rent prepaid in the current assets section. We are going to create a new rent prepaid here. Okay, here. And that is note 3. Note number 4. Cagney won a private holiday prize for 2 worth €6,000. One ticket had been given to a salesperson as payment of sales commission, and the other to an advertising firm as payment in full of a debt of 3,250. No entry had been made in the books. So just be careful here. The advertising firm is payment in full of a debt. Okay? Payment in full of a debt. We are not dealing with advertising here. We are dealing with a creditor, someone we owe money to. So, first of all, capital. Cagney put €6,000 into the business. Oh, so again, there's no entry made in the books, so we have no did column. Okay, we have no did column and we have no fixed column. We just have a should column because there's no entry made in the books. So 6,000 is capital introduced. One ticket was given to a salesperson as part payment of sales commission, and the other as payment of a debt. So the sales commission of €3,000. 2 tickets, €6,000, 3,000 each. The second thing would be a creditor. But we owed 3,250, but the advertising firm took 3,000. So therefore there must have been discount. They must have given us discount. So what will happen here is the creditor will actually reduce by 3,250, and we will receive discount of 250. As you can see, both sides balance. What will we do here? We will add this to capital in the balance sheet. Sales commission, we will take from P and L. So on the debit side. Creditor on the debit side, we will take from creditors. And discount on the credit side is a positive, so we will add to P and L. Okay, so that is note 4 dealt with. Now, note number 5, and this is probably the hardest note in this year's questions in 2014. So I'll take my time and explain each step. So first of all, Again, we have a did, a should, and a fix. Are we going to need them? Cagney's private car, valued at 8,800, was presented to the business. He took a used freezer from the business for an agreed value of €800. The only entry made in the books was a debit of 800 in the equipment account. The freezer had a book value of €1,300. So there's a lot in this. First of all, the only thing we are told happened is in the equipment account, there was a debit of €800. That was the only thing that did happen. What should have happened? Let's go through it. Private car valued at 8,800 was presented to the business. So what that is, that's capital introduced of 8,800. Of a vehicle, a private car, so vehicles will be debited €8,800. That's the first part. Secondly, he took a used freezer from the business for a value of €800, and we are told the freezer had a book value of €1,300. Okay, so what's happened here? First of all, a freezer for a grocer's would be classed as equipment. So the equipment was worth the book value €1,300. So we credit €1,300. But he took it from the business for €800. That's drawings of €800. It was worth €1,300. He took it out of the business for €800. So in the books, that will be a loss of €500. Okay, so that's what should have happened. So we're going to have to fix all these accounts. So we'll just do them in order. Equipment is at €800 debit, should be at €1,300 credit. So we're going to have to fix that. Equipment. So we're going to have to credit 2,100. Now, I must mention before I carry on, if you look at the did column, there is only 800 on the debit side. There is nothing on the credit side, so there's also going to be a suspense account in this question, in the fixed column. Okay, that's the equipment sorted. Secondly, the rest of these weren't added at all, so we just go down. Capital is going to be 8,800 credited. Vehicles is going to be 8,800 debit. We have dealt with equipment already. Drawings, 800 debit. We have a loss of €500. And we will also have to add in a suspense account. So if we add up both sides, they do not balance. What we need is €800 on this side for this debit side to balance with the credit side. So how would we treat these? Equipment credit, so take from equipment. We're going to take it away. Capital, we're going to add to capital because it's on the credit side. Vehicles is a debit account, so we're going to add to vehicles. Drawings is a debit account, so we're going to add to drawings. Now, this is a loss of €500. It's on the debit side of the loss in the P&L, so it's take from P&L. And the suspense account is on the debit side. That's us dealt with notes 1 to 5 now. That's the hard bit of the question done. Once you have that part of the question done, the rest of the question should be straightforward enough. And what I do now, I will go through the marking scheme and we will tick off, make sure we have all the figures that we need. So I'll go back to note 1 first of all, and we will look at the solution. So what you are asked for, first of all, is to journalize the necessary corrections. Very straightforward, because all we are doing, we are taking all the figures from the fixed column, if we have one. So if you look at note 1, you will see we have debtors, debit 830, credit 830, discount, credit 50, bank, debit 83, credit 780, bad debts written off, debit 747. If I go back to the question, you will see all of these here. I'm just going to tick them off. We have all of those in note 1. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 marks. Also 1 mark for a sentence explaining what happened. Okay, so it's the exact same as our fix column in note number 1. Note number 2, the fix column. Purchase returns, debit 3,500. Creditors, debit 11,500. Suspense, credit 15,000. If we go to the marking scheme, here we have it, just like the fixed column. And there's your 1 mark for a recording of return of goods and credit note incorporating a restocking charge. Okay, good. Note number 3, let's go back to our notes. We had no fixed column, we just had a should column. So we take capital 4260 credit, rent P&L 3408 debit, and rent 852 debit. Look at our marking scheme. We have rent P&L 3408, debtors for rent or rent prepaid 852, and capital 4260, and there's our explanation. Note number 4. Again, we had no fixed column, no did column, just a should. Credit capital 6,000, debit commission 3,000, debit creditors 3250, and credit discount 250. So as you can see, debit sales commission, debit creditors, credit capital, credit discount received. Now it doesn't matter what order these are in at all. What's important is that they are on the correct side and that they balance. And there we have our explanation there as well. So that's worth 9 marks. The last note, well, like I said, was the trickiest note. If we go back to note 5, you'll see here we're looking at the fixed column. So there's credit equipment, credit capital, debit vehicles, debit drawings, debit loss, and debit suspense. If we look here, we have all of these things. We have debit vehicles, again the order doesn't matter, credit capital, debit drawings, debit loss and disposal, debit suspense, credit equipment. And there's your explanation. So that note alone was worth 5, 10, 16, 17 marks out of your 100 for that note alone. So that note needs practiced. As you can see from our notes, we have easily got 54 marks for part A. Next, part B, very straightforward again if we have our notes correct. We are looking for our suspense figures. Note number 1, fixed column, there's no suspense. Note number 2, there's a credit of 15,000. Note number 3, no suspense. Note number 4, no suspense. Note number 5, there is a suspense, debit 800. So if we go to our marking scheme, we have our 15,000 credit, we have our 800 debit, which gives us a difference of 14,200. Now what I would say, the difference being on the debit side mean it would be brought down to the credit side. So when you go to your balance sheet, that 14,200, I'm just going to go back up to the question. You're looking for suspense. So here we are, stock including suspense. So stock is a current asset, which means it's a debit account. If we are crediting this figure of 14,200, we are going to be taking that away from stock when it comes to the balance sheet. Okay, we're going to be taking that away. So I'll just make a note there. Take from debtors. When that comes. The third part of the question, statement of corrected net profit. This is why when I was going through the notes, each time I made a note on the right hand side of each note. So if we look here, original net profit from the books, that comes from the balance sheet up here. Here it is here, net profit 87,200. So we take that figure and we take all the things from our notes. I'll just have a quick look at them. So we'll go through them. Note 1, we had this one here, discount, add 50 to the P&L. This one here, take 747 from the P&L. Note number 2, take away 3,500 from P&L. Note number 3, 3408 take away from P&L. Note number 4, 3,000 take from P&L, 250 add to P&L. Note number 5, we had only this one here, 500 take from P&L. So that's all you do. You have your original P&L balance, you add 50, you add 250. Then you take away 747, 3,500, 500, 3408, 3,000, gives us a corrected net profit figure for 5 marks of 76345. And we will use this in the next part of the question, our balance sheet. Again, like I've said, once you have your notes done properly, this is very straightforward. So 14 marks there. Next, for 20 marks, we have our balance sheet. Okay, so here is the balance sheet done out for you. You're basing it on the balance sheet above from the question. You'll see here, premises doesn't change, so it's 650. Motor vehicles and equipment do change. So we're going to look at the notes for motor vehicles, comes from they both come from note number 5. So motor vehicles, you add 8,800. Equipment, you take away 2,100. So you're getting 2 marks apiece from that. Then you have your stock. I mentioned it a minute ago. Your stock figure from the balance sheet, take away your suspense figure. Your debtors figure is your debtors figure from the question, plus 830 minus 830. That came from note number 1. Plus 830 minus 830. The creditors figure, as you can see, there are a couple of things. There's a minus 11,500 and a minus 3250. If we look for creditors, note number 2 had take away 11,500, and note number 4 had take away 3,250. The bank overdraft came from above, 32,000. If we go back to our notes, look for bank. Note number 1, add 780, take away 83. So add 780, take away 83, 32697. The capital has 3 adjustments. So there's your initial figure of 810. If we look at our notes for capital, note number 1, no. Note number 2, no. Note number 3, add 4260. Note number 4, add 6,000. Note number 5, add 8,800. There they are, 1 mark each. And I would write them like this, not just the total, because then if you get one wrong, you could still get 2 out of 3. The corrected net profit comes from above. We just worked it out. And the drawings figure is from your balance sheet, plus there was, I think it was note number 5, add 800 euro. And here your balances. Again, if your notes are done properly, it becomes very easy to do the balance sheet. Finally, with this question, don't forget the theory. The theory was, in this question, identify 3 types of errors that affect the balancing of a trial balance. So 2 marks each for these. Errors in figures and addition, posting only one side of the double entry, entering one amount on the debit side of one ledger account and entering a different amount on the credit side of another ledger account. So these would all cause the trial balance not to balance. Thanks for watching. As I said, you can watch this as many times as you want, pause, rewind, but practice the question from scratch. Don't practice until you get it right, practice until you cannot get it wrong. Thanks for watching. Bye.